Alright crew, let's talk about something you can feel but can't see. It's a force of nature that whispers through the trees, howls across the plains, and can even push a sailboat across the vast ocean. I'm talking about the wind. It's more than just a cool breeze on a hot day or a blustery chill in the winter. The wind is one of planet Earth's most patient and powerful artists. It's a sculptor that works on a massive scale, using nothing but air to carve, shape, and redesign the very ground beneath our feet. For millions of years, this invisible force has been tirelessly at work, creating some of the most breathtaking and wild landscapes you could ever imagine. It's a true natural wonder, an unseen power that leaves behind very visible, very real evidence of its incredible strength. Think about it this way: a painter uses a brush, a sculptor uses a chisel, but Mother Nature? She uses the wind. This invisible tool might seem gentle most of the time, but when it gets going, it can move entire mountains of sand and etch intricate patterns into solid rock. From the rolling hills of sand in the Sahara Desert to the peculiar rock formations in America's Southwest, the wind's handiwork is on display all over our amazing planet. It proves that you don't need hands to build something truly spectacular. Sometimes, all you need is patience and a steady gust. So how does the wind, which is just moving air, actually move solid stuff like sand and dirt? It's all about a process called erosion. Think of erosion as nature's way of picking things up and moving them. When the wind blows across a dry, open area like a desert or a barren field, it acts like a giant, invisible broom. It sweeps over the surface, and if it's moving fast enough, it has the energy to lift tiny, lightweight particles right off the ground. We're talking about things like fine dust, silt, and grains of sand. The stronger the wind blows, the bigger the particles it can carry. Once the wind has picked up its load of tiny particles, it can carry them for incredible distances. This is called transportation. The smallest, lightest particles, like dust, can be lifted high up into the atmosphere and travel for hundreds or even thousands of miles across continents and oceans. Heavier particles, like sand grains, tend to stay closer to the ground. They get picked up for a short hop, then fall back down only to be picked up again. This bouncing, skipping motion is called saltation, and it's how most sand moves across a desert. Now what goes up must come down, right? The wind can't carry its load of sand and dust forever. Eventually it will slow down or run into an obstacle, and when the wind loses its energy, it drops them. So you have this amazing cycle constantly at work. Erosion is the picking up, transportation is the moving, and deposition is the putting down. It's a three-step dance that the wind performs all over the world 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Okay, let's talk about the most famous of all wind-made landforms, the mighty sand dune. These are literally mountains of sand, sculpted and moved by the wind. They are the ultimate expression of the wind's power of deposition. When the wind carries sand and encounters an obstacle, it drops the sand, and a small pile begins to form. This pile grows and grows, creating a gentle slope on the side facing the wind, called the windward slope. The sand grains march up this gentle slope, pushed by the wind. It's a constant parade of countless tiny particles, all moving in the same direction, climbing their way to the top of this ever-growing hill of sand. It's a beautiful, dynamic process you can see in action. Once the sand grains reach the top or the crest of the dune, they tumble down the other side. This side is much steeper and is sheltered from the wind. It's called the slip face. Because it's so steep, the sand is unstable and it often avalanches down in small cascades. This process of sand blowing up the gentle side and sliding down the steep side is what makes sand dunes migrate or move across the desert. A dune can move several feet or even hundreds of feet in a single year. They are truly rivers of sand, constantly flowing and reshaping the landscape. One of the most classic shapes is the Barchan dune, which is crescent-shaped with its horns pointing downwind. And in places where the wind blows from multiple directions, you can get spectacular star dunes, making them look like giant sandy starfish. The Sahara Desert in Africa is home to vast sand seas, with dunes that can be over 1,000 feet high. That's as tall as a skyscraper. And the Namib Desert in Namibia features some of the oldest and most colorful dunes in the world, glowing a brilliant orange and red. Now, let's look at a completely different kind of wind-shaped landscape, one that's the total opposite of a sandy dune. I'm talking about desert pavement. Imagine walking through a desert and instead of sinking into soft sand, you're walking on a hard, flat surface covered in tightly packed, interlocking stones. It looks almost like a naturally cobblestone street stretching for miles. This incredible surface is called desert pavement, and it's also created by the wind, but through a process of removal rather than addition. It's nature's mosaic, assembled with incredible patience over countless centuries. The process is called deflation. It starts in a desert area that has a mix of different sized materials, large pebbles, small gravel, sand, and fine dust. The wind, acting like a giant vacuum cleaner, is very good at picking up and carrying away the small, lightweight particles like sand and dust. So, over thousands of years, the wind blows and blows, constantly removing all the fine material from the surface. What's left behind is a concentrated layer of just the larger, heavier stones that the wind couldn't move. They pack together more and more tightly, eventually forming a nearly continuous cover that protects the finer material underneath. Sometimes the stones get a dark, shiny coating called desert varnish, which is a thin layer of clay and minerals that gets baked onto their surface by the sun, making them look polished and dark. This interlocking mosaic of stones becomes very stable and can last for a very long time. Get ready for one of the weirdest and wildest landforms sculpted by the wind: the mushroom rock. Also known as a pedestal rock or a hoodoo, this is a natural rock formation that looks exactly like its name suggests: a giant mushroom growing out of the ground. It features a large, bulky rock sitting on top of a much thinner, more slender stem or pedestal. They look like something straight out of a science fiction movie, but they are 100% real and carved by nature's sandblasting power. The secret to their strange shape lies in how wind erosion works. The wind can't lift heavy sand grains very high off the ground. Most of the sandblasting action happens within a few feet of the surface. So, when the wind blows against a large, solitary rock, the bottom part gets hit with a relentless barrage of sand particles. This intense erosion carves away at the base much faster than the top. Over thousands upon thousands of years, this uneven erosion creates the distinctive mushroom shape. The base is whittled away into a narrow stalk, while the top remains large and bulbous, forming the cap of the mushroom. You can find these incredible rock formations in arid regions all over the globe. One of the most famous places is the White Desert in Egypt, which is filled with chalk-white mushroom rocks that look like an alien garden. Each mushroom rock is a temporary masterpiece, a fleeting reminder of nature's constant, powerful forces. Now let's shift from sand and rock to something much, much finer: dust. The wind doesn't just build dunes, it also creates massive landscapes out of tiny dust-sized particles. These landscapes are called loess hills. Loess is basically ancient dust, ground up by glaciers thousands of years ago during the ice ages. When the glaciers melted, they left behind huge barren plains of this fine rock flour. The wind then picked up this dust and carried it for hundreds of miles, depositing it in thick blankets over vast areas. Unlike sand, which forms dunes, loess has a special property. The particles are very small and angular, which allows them to stick together. This cohesiveness means that when loess is cut into, it can form very steep, almost vertical cliffs that are surprisingly stable. The landscape has a unique, sharply defined appearance that's sometimes described as being like a crumpled piece of paper. The Loess Hills of western Iowa and Missouri are a world-famous example containing some of the deepest loess deposits outside of China. The Loess Plateau in China is the largest loess deposit on Earth, covering an area the size of France and creating a landscape that has supported agriculture for thousands of years. The amazing sculptures created by wind aren't confined to just one part of the world. They are a global phenomenon, showcasing nature's artistic flair on every continent. Let's take a quick world tour to see some of these incredible sights. Our first stop is Africa, home to the largest hot desert in the world, the Sahara. Here, you can find the Great Sand Sea, spanning Egypt and Libya, which is a vast wilderness of nothing but sand. It contains enormous dunes, including elegant linear dunes that stretch for over 100 miles in parallel lines, like giant sandy corduroy. Next, let's jet over to Asia, specifically to the Gobi Desert in China and Mongolia. Here you can find some of the most spectacular yardangs in the world. Yardangs are streamlined, elongated ridges of rock that have been carved by the wind, often looking like the upturned hulls of ships sailing through a sea of sand. North America has its own gallery of wind-sculpted wonders. In White Sands National Park in New Mexico, you'll find a breathtaking landscape of dunes made not of sand, but of pure white gypsum crystals. The wind constantly reshapes this dazzlingly bright and otherworldly landscape, creating a truly unique desert experience. Finally, let's head down under to Australia. In Nambung National Park in Western Australia, you'll find the pinnacles. Thousands of limestone pillars rise out of the yellow sand. These pillars are the fossilized roots of ancient plants, and the surrounding soil was eroded and blown away by the wind, leaving these eerie towers behind. After exploring all these incredible landforms, from migrating dunes to mushroom rocks, it becomes clear that these aren't just piles of sand or strange-looking stones. They are precious natural laboratories and unique historical records. These wind-shaped landscapes are incredibly sensitive ecosystems. The delicate balance that creates a desert pavement or the specific wind patterns that build a star dune can be easily disrupted. Human activities like driving off-road vehicles, construction, or even too much foot traffic can break the fragile crust of the desert floor, causing irreversible damage. Studying these landforms gives us invaluable clues about our planet's past and future. The layers within a Loess deposit are like pages in a history book. By analyzing the dust, scientists can learn about past climate conditions, wind patterns, and environmental changes going back tens of thousands of years. Furthermore, these habitats, which might look barren to the untrained eye, are teeming with life. Many animals and plants have developed amazing adaptations to survive in these constantly shifting environments. When we protect these landforms, we are also protecting the biodiversity that depends on them. So the next time you feel the wind on your face, remember its hidden power. It's not just moving air, it's a master sculptor, a patient historian, and the architect of some of the most stunning places on Earth. By supporting national parks, respecting protected areas, and promoting scientific research, we can ensure that future generations will also have the chance to marvel at these natural masterpieces. We must be the guardians of the wind's art, protecting these wild places for the planet and for ourselves. The wind is calling, and it's time for us to listen to the tale it tells through